o'clock. Okay, the meeting's called to order and we'll begin with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with justice for all.
Okay, I am sitting down. I am Mary Ann Burr, Commissioner for District 1.
District 2, Commissioner John Mashazek, present.
Okay, are there any changes to the addition?
Doesn't appear to be.
I have none.
Okay.
Our meeting will proceed, and I will welcome our visitor in person and everyone who is here online or on the phone. This is the time we set aside for members of the public to speak to the board regarding subjects of concern, interest, or items on the agenda. The board will take all information under advisement, but generally will not take any action unless it is emergent in nature. To ensure your comments are recorded, please state your name and city of residence. Please limit comments to 5 minutes. If you have any documents to present to the board, please email them to the board executive director prior to the meeting.
Comment, okay, anybody online like to participate in public comment, please? Either raise your hand or unmute. Going once, going twice. There's no public comment.
Thank you. We are moving on.
Anybody here?
Already asked.
Okay.
We are moving on to the approval of the voucher list. You have it all. Well, we both have it. Do you have the numbers?
I do. You want me to
So
read
could
it?
you just read them off, please?
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the Port of Coupeville voucher approval document dated 1/24/2024 for voucher numbers 24-0126 through 24-0132 for a dollar amount of $4,563.03. Payroll direct deposit EFT called name numbered EFT-0108 for $12,941.61, and the electronic vouchers numbered EFT-0109 through EFT-0111 for a total amount of $6,243.50. The total voucher document total being $23,748.14. Do I have a second?
I second this and note that the one item for marine structures engineering for $2,118.60 will be reimbursed by one of our grants. I have reviewed all of these. I've seconded it. Is there any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is unanimously carried.
Go ahead and sign.
Yep, you go ahead and sign, John. If you can print your name underneath your signature, that'd be great. And then Commissioner Burr, if you can sign and print your name underneath yours, that'd be great. Thank you.
There you go, Mary Ann.
Put your name right there. Oh, just put it underneath, yeah, just press.
Sorry.
That's okay. Fantastic, thank you. Appreciate that.
And now we have a financial update.
Dawn, you're on.
Hello, I had to unmute myself. Let's see here. Need to find my reports. There they are. As of the end of December, we have a total of $1,378,000 $1,000 in the IDD fund that has been collected. 1,139,000 of that is in the investment savings account. In our general maintenance fund, we have a total of $1,022.83. $83. $1,022,083.13. And 750,000 of that is in the investment savings account.
Okay.
So we've actually recovered all of the property tax except for about 1.5% this year. So I'm expecting, a good portion of that to come in the next 3 months. And then as far as the IDD fund, we've collected just a little less than 1% left. So we have just a little less than 1% left over, and hopefully that will be in the next 3 months as well. Other than that, we are pretty much right on budget. We have collected, let's see here, I just tallied it out. Last year, we have collected 592,692.22. So a little less than $593,000 in grant reimbursements. I'm expecting before the end of this month, I'm actually surprised I haven't received the counties yet. 591,000. A little over the 518,000 is from the RCED files and cap, and the about 73,000 is for the wharf project. I don't know, seismic and the DHAP grant from the state. So those are the two big ones. There is a few other little ones that we're still expecting funds on that we have been requested in December that are rolling over to the next year for receipt.
Is that EVs, forever EVs? Did we ever get that reimbursed?
We have not gotten forever EVs. We did get TWA.
Right. Yeah, they reimbursed us right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we are expecting, a little amount from the federal grant.
And then what's the timeline, Dawn, as far as the getting final numbers from 2023 to start working on the annual report?
I actually was after getting 3 different corrections, I actually did finish reconciling with their reports. They did say that there could be adjustments. So I tend to wait until April to do the annual report just because of that fact. And the reason being is because the state doesn't like you to be, it has a certain margin of difference from the previous year that it wants you to be. So if there's big adjustments, over 500 or 1,000, I'd rather wait until April to make sure I get those adjustments in. And they usually have to do with property tax for the most part, or the investment savings trust accounts. So I tend to wait till the middle to end of April before I run those. It's due the end of May, I believe, the 30th of May.
Do you have any general, you have any feedback as far as how we ended 2023 with budget to actuals?
Oh, I think that we did great. It's let's see here. I have to pull up my.
Can we screen share any of that?
I would need to have those documents to screen share unless Dawn can screen share. So yeah, absolutely. They just. What would you like to screen share, John? There's something you'd like to.
Would you like me to screen share the budget versus actual?
Visually,
Yeah,
like this.
yeah, if you can visualize the actual, the budget, so the commissioners and attendees can see that.
So are these are final, or are they still being reconciled?
They're reconciled, but we're gonna wait.
Yeah,
Okay.
there will be,
Yes.
because of the, because the county is on an accrual system and we're on a cash system, all jurisdictions are cash basis. The county does have adjusting entries that they make as they audit their fiscal period. So I am expecting to get some adjustments, not a lot, but I am expecting to. They've had new employees and a transition, so I'm expecting to get more than just the normal. So here is, before I begin, was there any specific questions that either of you had with the reports or?
So why are so many negatives under the Greenbank Farm tenant? The budget, why are all the minuses there? Under the base rents have a bunch of negatives that we don't have.
Well, I think that we've kind of discussed this once before, but I think it has to do with the fact that we did not raise rents as expected. We did not raise the utilities as expected on all of them. And there was like the wine shop was only open outside. But it was open outdoors less of a period than it was the year before. If that makes any sense. I kind of said that backwards. But so a lot of that has to do with, and then of course, you know, which ones was it that left? Redfish, Bluefish left early, or, you know, early in the year. I think it was October, middle October when they left. Lesady Farms, I'm not pronouncing that correct, but they also left.
Lesedi left in August and Redfish, Bluefish left in November. But the difference you're seeing, I don't know about what's going on with the 10,218 for Turning Point. From C1.
Oh, the reason why that's there, and I'm sorry about that, is because they changed their name and I have to remap it.
Okay.
So that's incorrect right there. I had to change their business name to Fire something.
Fire of the Heart.
Yeah,
Right.
and so I have to remap it and that 10,000 will be back up there.
Yeah.
I ended up having to do that. I noticed that when I was doing the state returns. And so when I did the state returns, I had to change their name, and then I didn't redo the reports afterwards.
And so obviously fuel sales took a hit, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah, fuel sales was a big one. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting too, how we end up in 2024 budget actual, because now we're delayed, you know, at least a couple months on that project. So,
the expenses on the fuel though still accommodated the income. So we didn't lose anything, especially since we were able to sell the fuel to Oak Harbor. That had to be drained out.
yeah,
of the tank.
it could have been worse, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Hey, Don?
Yes,
How, just, you know, so we have our certain amount of money invested in the Island County Investment Fund, right? That's the 750,000?
We got more in
Yes.
there.
Huh?
Yeah, that is, yes.
Okay,
the IDD has little over, it has I think it's 1,378,000. The general maintenance trust savings account has 750,000.
and what percentage are we getting on that account or that money? Like 1% or 2%, something like that?
Actually, is that in the spreadsheet, Don?
It's in the spreadsheet that they gave us. Let me pull it up. I have it filed. here. December. So. We're getting a little over 2, barely. 2% currently.
Okay.
It looks like at the beginning of the month, it was 2.4 and then it reduced to 2.
Sounds good.
Does that show the interest we're also getting with the IDD fund?
Yeah, it's the same.
Well, that balance only showed 700 growing up to 800,000, which is good to see our savings account grow.
Yeah, yeah. No, we
Thanks to grants.
were
Investment
able
account.
to.
Yeah,
So
I
these
got
are
it.
the reports that they give me. This is the first out of 3 sets that I received.
Okay,
So this
So
one was
that-
IDD fund at 2 point. Let's
so that's
see.
a little over $3,000 in interest, $1,000 in
Yeah.
interest from last account. So we're doing at least in these 2 accounts or $4,000 a year in interest revenue.
Yeah, this right here is incorrect. So this was one of the first sets of reports that they gave me, okay? We only have 750,000.
Yeah.
They doubled this entry. So I
But
had to
only
have
for
them
2
give me,
weeks.
I had to have them give me new reports.
okay.
Is there only one option for investment of the boat's money with the county?
Good thing.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah,
There's not multiple accounts that we can choose from to invest the money. We went with their interest account, right? So we want to gain interest on it.
Yes,
Yeah,
it seems strange to me that the rate is so low.
I'm actually surprised it's that high.
yeah.
Because savings accounts right now are 0.
I think it was lower.
I get 8 cents back on my savings account for the whole year. But I mean, it's actually, it was as high as 4% at one point, and it just varies
Yeah,
throughout the.
they got
cycle.
up there this year. I mean, in years past, it's been 1 point something.
Yeah,
The last few years, but this past year, it's kind of ranged between 4 and what it is now too. Okay. But overall, we have done very well and, you know, a lot of it has to do with the fact that we, budget the total cost of our grants and the total reimbursement of our grants. So, and we don't always fulfill those within the fiscal period. So.
all
Did
right.
anybody have any questions or did they have anything that they would like to see in the future since we're starting a new year? Other than just the budget versus actual and the balance sheets, or is there any detail that we should be or need be concentrating on?
I don't know if it's detail. Dawn, I know that Commissioner Burr and I spoke and
Yes, I had a question just about the balance sheet, which is to me, should be a simple way of seeing how things are going. But the way it's laid out is very difficult for me to follow. And I talked to Chris about this and he said, well, that's the way it's done with the software and that accountants can understand it. And I'm telling you, I'm not an accountant and I don't understand it.
right.
So I was
What is
wondering-
what is it that we were trying to not seeing, or is it
Can you
because there's so
walk-
many bank accounts?
No, it's the balance sheet, the way it's laid out. I'm not questioning the numbers. I'm just saying that the way they're laid out is very difficult to understand. The titles wave in a over on the left-hand side and aren't easy to connect to the numbers they represent. And the way that the addition process works seems strange to me because it looked like addition problems on the right, but it wasn't necessarily that case. I'm wondering, is there a simpler way, a different way to show the balance sheets, without having to use this particular way of presenting it? Could it be summarized somehow?
Oh, I can condense it.
Issue or?
I can,
I'm
Yeah,
just
I can-
looking at what I got.
Yeah,
She can condense it, Dawn can condense it down.
Say again.
Yeah.
She can condense the balance sheet down. She can collapse categories and geocodes.
That would make it easier because this is a public document, and if somebody asked me to see the balance sheet and I showed them that, they would say, well, looking at the fourth combination of numbers, they don't add up to 2,425,000. There's not enough in that. The way we're used to seeing
Yeah,
addition problems presented is different in this than what
Yeah.
we're used to in our normal life, that's all.
yeah,
There's a lot
well,
of
yeah,
different-
and there's nothing that you can change it
Huh.
even on any balance sheet, because you always have the assets versus the liabilities and the equities, so.
Right, but if we just had the total ICT fund number with that number, and then the fund, the next numbered fund with that number, and then the total, it would be so easy to follow without all the individual little pieces.
it comes
Okay,
down to that
so-
transparency piece, right? The
Mm.
more detail, the more details we give, the more transparent we are. So if
Yeah,
we can always scale backwards.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that it would be important though, because you are very interested in knowing the detail between the available IDD and the investment IDD. I think that those details should stay. I think that what Marianne is probably most leaning towards is the detail in the liabilities in the equity section that can be a little eye-boggling to look at.
Mhm.
So would you like me to leave the detail of the banking information in the bank accounts and then just condense the liability section here?
That would sound.
Let's try it and see how that works next month.
Let's give it a go. I had no trouble following the other things, the other documents she presented. It was just this one that messed me up.
Okay. Well, maybe Don, if you get time, you can sit down and send a sample out to the board and myself and,
Okay, I'll do that during the meeting.
okay, cool. All right,
Thank you.
you guys have any
You're
other
welcome.
questions on the current,
No, I don't have any,
Good.
that I could follow. Especially with the explanation. It was very helpful.
Don, you want to go ahead and exit out of screen sharing?
Sure. Let's see, I'm not used to this. Do I just,
I can stop you as well.
actually, okay.
this is like.
Oh, there we go.
Ventriloquist.
I kicked you off.
See your face here, but voice is there.
Right.
Ventriloquist.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to old business and we've got a launch fuel tank update.
Yeah, so I sent you guys a very detailed email today on what's going on there. Probably saw the newspaper article break today as well. So thanks to Commissioner Mashasak, we had a conversation with a volunteer who's been a huge supporter of the port, who has a background in this information, Mark Barlgen, and we met with our geologist, Kim, from the Strata Group, and Mary and I, and we wanted to make sure that before we start digging up our entire property, that was the original suggestion, that we gather some more data or look at options of gathering more data. Fantastic conversation, and Mark and Kim worked very well together. I was unaware of Mark's skill set and career in this industry. And he brought a lot to this conversation, and our geologist agreed. So what we're gonna do is, even though the cleanup change order that was approved previously is still approved, we held off on doing that. And we are gonna bring in, we have 3 bids coming in from 3 different companies who are gonna come in and take 5 bore samples in very strategically located spots. And you guys have that map, you have those spots. And I sent that to you today, this morning.
Okay.
And that's gonna help us at least have more data to determine how big is this legacy fuel that is sitting down there. We don't think it's moving, we don't think it's on the north side, the water side. We think it has come from a different location, from the south.
Uphill.
From uphill, yeah. And so we're gonna bore on that south side as well as the west side and see if we can bring up some more data. It's gonna be tested. It could be that those core samples come up clean, and then we just clean up the spot where we took the one soil sample. So big thank you to Commissioner Mashasak for saying, hey, why don't we just head down this path and just try this, or at least have a conversation? And the bids are coming in. We're looking probably at around $10,000 to about 13 grand, which is well within my change order authority to approve. And that'll at least give us more data, and at least be able to determine, okay, if all of these come back, like I said, negative, best case scenario, we dig out the contaminated soil that we found in that one spot and we move on. And we're not spending the $72,000 plus, right? The worst case scenario is that all of that soil comes up positive. And then with that data, we would sit down with the geologist and determine what are the next steps. So there's your best and worst case scenarios, but I think it's smart to go get more samples and more data to make sure. We are pretty confident this did not come from the tanks that we just pulled. And we are very confident that it did not come from the previous tanks that were pulled in 1994, because those were actually documented that they did not leak, and the soil around those tanks were tested back in 1994 and they were clean.
Hmm.
So, and this is at a deeper level than the past tank, and then the tank that was pulled out in 1994. So it is very likely this contamination came from a different source. Or it was just a spill in that one location that we discovered when they were digging. But we're gonna find out.
Yeah.
We're thinking this is gonna take, by the time that Mary and I pick a vendor and get their boring machine out here, it's kind of probably be about 2 to 3 weeks before they take the 5 core samples and then have it tested, and then have the geologist come back and present the data to us.
So there's some upside that, may be good for us, or no worse than we already,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but at least we can find out the spread, if there is a spread. And the severity of it, if it is severe. So with these 5 bore tests, we'll have more information. So that's what we're gonna do next. We're not gonna start digging up the whole property yet.
I read the most recent article in the Whitby News Times where it was referred to mistakenly, in my opinion, as a leak.
Yeah,
And it makes it difficult. I realize the story is much bigger than that. And it's unfortunate that the word leak was
Yeah.
used, because there are so many other options of where it came from.
yeah, it did not come from our tanks.
No.
At least not the ones that were installed pre-94, taken out in 94, and installed in 94 and taken out
I
December
think-
11th. They
I
did come
think
from those
it's
tanks.
important that we continue to emphasize the fact that we don't know. And a possibility is a spill
Mhm.
at the time when those tanks were filled. Because we know they weren't leaking, the tanks weren't leaking.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been a spill when they fill a tank.
Oh, okay.
Because the contaminated soil was discovered 1.5 feet below where
I
our
see.
soil was taken out,
Thank
that
you.
supported the 2 older tanks. So this is most likely come from a different location that has seeped down through the gravel and the pea gravel and
The-
settled on the clay level that is deeper than our 2 tanks were previously located.
So if it is a spill, it originated somewhere else, not from the tanks that we had at the port?
That is very likely.
Okay.
potentially the auto shop across the street, which is now a
Yes,
retail.
right, I
Or
remember
the
that.
Unical
The
fuel
tank
depot up the
Yes,
block.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
I think it's important that until we know, we let people know that we don't know, but that we're working on discovering
Yeah.
and can only proceed once we have the information.
Yeah, and that's what the newspaper article I was hoping to achieve with that. But I didn't like the word leak either, because those tanks weren't leaking. I made it very clear. Those tanks did not leak. They were
Maybe we could
certified
ask
by
for-
a geologist.
Ask for a correction then. That it's premature
Yeah.
to label it like they did,
Yeah, yeah,
so.
Yep.
It might be
Well-
somebody else's leak,
right,
but not our leak.
that's right.
Yes, yeah, well, we don't need to get into it too deep.
Yeah.
Make up big.
And
stories.
this Friday, Mary has sent me an email earlier that this Friday, the geologist will have completed the file to the Department of Ecology stating that the tank that we pulled out on December the 11th, as well as the soil test around it, was not related to the soil, the contaminated soil that they found. So basically clean, just like it was in 1994, is clean.
I think the important thing is we're gonna take care of it.
We're gonna take care of it.
That's what's important.
Yeah,
I think when I was hearing, you know, the tree was gonna be chopped down, we were gonna be yanking out all, potentially have to shut down the causeway to
Yeah.
the wharf. Digging out all that soil, that's when, you know, my brain's just like, this doesn't sound good for us. And then at the last second, I remembered 25 feet away from my practice was a guy who knows all about environmental remediation. And I went up and
Let
knocked
me
on his
shake your
door.
hand on that. Thank you.
so just for the record, the cherry tree was not gonna be chopped down. I don't need that going to the paper. They actually were gonna root ball it up and remove it and replant it. So
Yeah.
just to make sure.
Yeah,
We love our cherry trees. But anyways, that's your update. You have that in writing as well as
Great.
your emails.
Great, I see, I've
Okay.
gotten it already.
okay.
So we're moving on to the next item, 8.2, which is wharf envelope repairs.
Yes, I'm gonna have Mary come up and bring a chair up to the table here, and she is gonna take you through this next phase of the Coupeville Wharf, which is we call the envelope repair. So that is the seismic stabilization of the walls on the Coupeville Wharf building. It's the replacement of all the siding,
All the outside.
all the outside, the replacement of all the windows, an envelope. A replacement of all the windows, replacement of all the doors,
Ah,
and even some rewiring of our current video or security cameras and so forth. That's minor detail. But
wonderful.
when we say wharf envelope repairs, that's what we mean. It's a huge project,
Oh,
very big project. It involves many phases, and last year, we submitted a bid from our architects, better get that one right. That was pretty high. And so Mary sat down and said, okay, there are certain phases of this project that we need this team in place. But there's another phase at the end that we feel that we can come in and better manage to reduce the cost of the project management part. So Mary's gonna take you through that because we do have a bid that we want to introduce to you guys and share with you. So you guys can think about it and possibly look to do an action item on that on February 14th. So that,
Did you want to put it up?
yeah, that would probably be a good thing to do, huh?
He was stealing your thunder, wasn't he?
Yes.
I was trying to introduce you. Let's see here.
In 10 words or
Fee
less.
proposal, well, you didn't say that part. Okay. Hold on one second. I actually have to get this on the Zoom. All right. Here.
So
Okay,
the original one was very ambiguous. They had a lot of things listed. We didn't know what we were paying for, being asked to pay for, so I asked them to take me through it step by step to find out exactly what we were paying for. So if we could scroll down to the different tasks,
you want the scope of work or you want to come down to the different tasks down here?
the different tasks. That's big four, that's scope.
Am I continuing down or? is
Oh
it
yeah,
this
'cause
one?
this one, which is the wrong
Oh.
way. Well,
Oh,
I'll
okay.
kind of walk you through while Chris plays with it. So it's broken down into task A, and then there's 3 additional tasks after that. So task A is all the preparation of going out and looking at the windows and deciding which ones we can keep, which ones we need to replace. Deciding how we are gonna attach the siding to the wall of a structure that's on a wooden base instead of like a regular house, and how it's gonna attach to the roof. And where the additional structure is gonna be inside to keep it more stable. So all of those in that area were really necessary. They're not things that we can really, there we go, the admin scoping as built. All those are things we have no skill to do. So we will need them to be able to continue with task A as listed there. One of the things we did have them take off was they usually have two different companies give us an estimate of how much they think it's gonna cost to put in the bid documents, and we scaled that back to one. So, got a little cost savings there. And also, since this is such a, elaborate project with many different teams having to work together, you can see the consultant coordination of just getting all the different people to work together to find all the different pieces. Because we want this to be able to be a good project that lasts and not something we have to redo again soon. So that was all the prep in task A, and then in task one. This is putting all the things together for, the contractors and the permitting. Again, not something we have the knowledge to do. So that would be something they'd have to do, as well as task two with the permitting and, yeah, basically all the city permitting and giving them all the specific drawings that the city requires.
What are the columns of numbers at the top?
So,
The different people
yeah, different people
and
involved.
different rates.
Subcontract, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this shows you your three phases on your left, right? Your task A, your task one and task two. Task one being really the design and engineering portion of it.
Right,
You got all your
Different
different,
PA stand for
that's,
assistant or something, no.
it's, you got the principal, which is the main guy at the architectural, right? He's like the head honcho. And then you've got his designers that are underneath them. Then you've got CAD designers underneath them, and then you got your admin. So all these are their hourly rates. It's like an attorney, a paralegal,
Gotcha.
you know, all your different, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
so I had them take off task three, because that's what happens after we get our contractor, so, that's why there's a bigger row. There was this basic services subtotal, because we wanted to really make sure that when we got to working with a contractor, we have more control over what's being done with them.
And who's doing it?
And who's doing it and how much they're charging us to do it. We just really wanna make sure in that portion, we're using our taxpayers' money the best we can, instead of just to fill all their requirements.
Yeah, so the architects are a part of association, IAI.
Yeah,
They're a part of an association, so they check a lot of boxes being an architect.
Right.
Those aren't the same boxes we have to check. So in the roof project, Mary and I learned it was heavily managed, very heavily managed. It was impressive. But there was a lot of things that they were doing and hoops that were asking the vendor to jump through that weren't really necessary for us to be in compliance.
Okay.
And even the contractor who had many years in the business said, I've never had to do things like this on public projects.
there's a lot of paperwork.
A lot of
that they're
paperwork.
Having to jump through.
Yeah, and those were standards in the IAA system for architects. They have their standards. They gotta check all these boxes.
Yeah.
We don't as a board. So this phase three is really a construction phase. This is where we go out to bid for construction. We meet with them, and then there are these benchmarks along the way that have to be met, which they will still be involved. We're talking about us managing that process instead. So when you look at phase one, let's go back to A, 1 and 2, okay? So this task A, 1 and 2. This part of it, which is necessary, is coming out at bidding at 48,644.
And then is the grant covering
There may be. There may be the 320,000 we got from Dave Paul.
Right.
We're already digging into that with the pile and cap project. So we're already seeking reimbursement using those funds. And we think most, if not all those funds are gonna be burnt up in the pile and cap project.
And we applied for the Save America's Treasures grant, which is
Yep.
highly competitive, so we're hoping we will get that to help pay for this.
Yeah,
To
okay.
pay for this, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Okay,
but if not, it'll be an IBD funded project.
okay.
Yeah,
And then I had them also tack on what the task 3 would be, just so when we get there in the future, we'll see what the difference is. Cause there are some things like the final walkthrough that we can't do, but there's a lot of meetings we don't need to do.
right.
So I wanted that there so we could see the
Yeah.
difference in the future.
Which is interesting because the original bid was $92,000 for all of these tasks, right? When we asked them to break it out into phases, just take the same bid and break it out into phases, it comes out to like 120 some odd thousand. So I'm a little confused.
And then he also had mentioned that he's willing to work with us on
Yeah.
phase 3, so
So.
we
So.
learned a lot.
Yeah, we learned a lot. So what we want you guys to understand how this is structured out, the different phases. Because the task 1 and 2, we need to get that going. But we want to give you guys the information, so we'll probably have this as an action item on the next meeting on February 14th. The phase 3 that they have here for $72,804, we're gonna still continue to pick that apart and see where we could reduce that cost. And that may be a great question to ask them. Why did this jump up like 20 some odd $1,000? And then Mary's also working with a consultant with the MRSC who specializes in this and is kind of helping us go through it. No port can take care of this portion of it, project manage this portion. You'll need the architects, the engineers to make sure as the project goes along, they're in compliance with the permit and what they're doing. So it's quite involved. It's a big project. We're estimating it to come in well over $500,000 to get all of this done. So, which is not surprising. The windows need to be manufactured out of wood. And the windows themselves can be upwards of $250,000 to replace all the windows themselves.
I have a question,
Yeah,
and it
please.
goes way back to the beginning when you were explaining envelope. We're fixing the envelope. What about the letter? What about the foundation? What about the seismic? This is a seismic project? Is that what I
Now,
understood?
this is what we call envelope repairs. We got that term from the architects.
Oh, I know that, but you're talking about working on the outside, and I know it needs it, but I thought I heard the word seismic
Yeah,
protection, and I didn't understand how you could protect the outside if you didn't protect the foundation.
yeah, no, that's a great question. So the pile and cap project is the foundation, right?
Okay,
The installation of 8 steel piles, east and west, prevents that building from moving side to side during an
Okay.
earthquake, but mainly from tidal.
okay, so
Right,
we've
so
got that
prevents this-
covered.
That's already in
That's
process.
already in
It's
progress.
covered. So how this building is constructed is basically siding over stick. So when you build a house, you have your frame,
Mhm,
you put 4x8 sheets
mhm,
of plywood over that frame, which
Mhm.
gives it its sheer strength.
mhm.
Then you put your moisture barrier down, your tie up,
Okay.
and then you have your siding. This building's not built that way. It doesn't have it doesn't have any sheer strength. So the interior walls do because they're more modern. So we have to pull off all that siding and put up those 4x8 sheets of plywood to give it that sheer strength, also
I
prevent it from buckling
see.
further.
I see.
Then we moisture bury it, and then we put on brand new siding.
Well, you know, I've got do-it-yourself guys in my neighborhood, and I know they're gonna hear that, they're gonna say, what?
Yeah. And-
So now I can say, now,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
And putting up the adding sheer strength to a wall, that is considered seismic stabilization.
I get it
Yeah,
now, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So anyways, anything else, Mary?
We also had, Prime Sash come out. They did the windows at Captain Whidbey's and they took a look at all of our windows and they'll be getting us some information on how much they think it will cost and how much it will cost them for doing it. And they did let me know that the windows that are super high up on the back are in really good condition, so that was nice to hear.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And this project, will come to the board looking to, approve, task 1 and 2. And then we'll, once they complete all the engineering drawings, all the necessary documents, then Mary will gather all that up. We'll go out to bid with a construction company. The plan right now is to start this project on September 15th. After tourism season has gone, the boating season, and, we anticipate this is probably gonna take the rest of that year. But our goal is to, by the end of 2025, obviously to have the piles and caps, the foundation, the entire building, the roof's already been done. Most of the infrastructure, water sewer lines, hopefully the sewer, the septic system, all of that should be rebuilt and ready for
That
the
would
next
be wonderful.
millennium. And then we start focusing on dredging and dock replacement and other things, so.
So do you see potential for a .09 grant
Mhm.
application
Yeah.
for the actual work itself?
For this phase,
Well, yeah, both actually.
we talked about actually today, already looking at applying for .09 funds for the dock replacement and the dredging, which is in the future. For this, I haven't even seen the .09 application come out.
So
So,
it's,
but
that was part of the cog today.
yeah, I'm anxious to hear.
Yeah. So,
You and I can talk because, if they're gonna, I know their new structure, their new matching structure, at least what was proposed. But yeah, we'll chase .09 funds with this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
absolutely.
there's money available.
Yeah,
The process was discussed about codifying, the whole process because it's been a little loosey-goosey over the years.
Hmm.
And by their own self-admission.
yeah,
So it sounds like, you know, somehow getting applications in that justify jobs retained
Mhm.
in the community is a hot button.
Mhm.
And that,
Yeah.
the wharf is definitely something between tourists coming in and keeping
Yep.
store owners alive.
Retention, job retention,
Yeah,
yeah.
job retention is a big
Yeah.
one. And so, we might wanna look at trying to get our share of that money.
Yep, absolutely. I think they call that jobs in hand, I think. Yeah, no, we'll be looking at .09 for this, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, we think thank you, Mary, very much. We
Thank
think
you.
the 320,000 that we got from Dave Paul is gonna go to the rest of the pile cap. Anything left over, we can actually use for this building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, now we're on to 8.3 discussion about updating the bylaws. At the last meeting, we made some changes that affect the bylaws we have. And when I looked at that, read it slowly and painfully, the bylaws, I can see that there's a lot of information in there that is extra and makes it difficult to find the meat, so to speak. So I talked to the people at MRSC to see if there was an alternative way to get the information we need about procedures. Because that's really what the bylaws have been doing. They've told us all how to do things at the meetings. And I would like to discuss the possibility of simply changing our way of doing things by, instead of having bylaws, have a list of rules of procedure, which include the way we do individual things in a numbered list. I was told by MRSC that other ports do that, and they gave me the links, and I checked, and there are ports that instead of having bylaws, they simply call them rules of procedure. And it makes it easier for a new commissioner, especially like me, to look through the list and see how we do things, that instead of having a given agenda list,
Right.
it simply says that we follow Robert's rules, which makes it so much easier to decide how to run a meeting. Because we do it the way Robert Rule says, and if there is a meeting that includes something that we don't usually include, but Robert's Rules does, we simply put it in that meeting's agenda. We don't have to be so specific about having the same exact agenda format every time.
So were you given a list of those ports that are using the rules of procedure?
Was I given a list of the ports?
Yeah, you could go
I can-
online and look at their rules of procedure.
Yes, I was disappointed in Port Townsend's because it was a bylaws with a different name on the top.
If you want to email that to me and I'll pass it along to Commissioner
Sure, I
Chestnut.
will,
Yeah.
I already forwarded you the MRSC response, but I'll find it and I'll send it to you again.
Well, I got copied on an email from you. To Chris.
I know Port Townsend was one of them, and I don't recall the other one, but I can find it.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, my
Yes.
problem with bylaws is that it appears to me that commissioners a long time ago who were members of the Lions Club or Seroptimus
Yeah,
just got their bylaws and put some other words in it, because our bylaws include that there are 3 commissioners. Well, that's in the law. You don't need to repeat that.
right.
And when I've been to meetings, so the training meetings for the water district, I'm a member of, that are very similar to the port training meetings for new commissioners. They've always said that it's the law that matters, not the bylaws, because some
Right.
people apparently were writing bylaws that were going off into outer space when there was a law that already covered it.
Well, it's kind of like the code of ethics that was
Yeah.
passed and rescinded.
You don't have to
You
have
don't
your
have to
own.
reinvent the law, right?
Right,
So,
right. Well,
I guess I'm open. I just would like to see some, what do we have now? What might replace it? Some other ports. I love going outside of our own little silo. and see how
well,
other
that's
people do it.
true. That's true, but other ports also, you have to remember, have other things to do than we do because they're different than us. I think what I'm talking about mostly is the procedures we use in our meetings.
Yeah,
And basically, what else, well, once you get a copy of the bylaws we already have, you will see that it includes things like committees. Well, we've only got 3 members, we've never had a committee,
right.
and it includes, some of the ones that I looked at actually said no dues. They were not written for ports, they were written for clubs.
Okay.
so Commissioner Burr, is this something that you could provide a draft of what a new rules of procedures would? There you go. Okay.
I did it hard copy because it's not important and I don't want it online yet. But I have my ideas of some of the things that might be included.
Okay.
I'm not, this is not a final list.
Sure.
Just the beginning,
That's right.
It's a
I-
discussion.
and taking a little bit of time to read it over, compare it to, you can compare my first attempt, it's really just a first attempt, against the bylaws we already have, and see if you really want to have what I've listed as a rule of procedure. That's all.
So was this is a draft.
This is absolutely a draft, and it says it on there. It took me a while to figure out how to put draft on it.
Your water.
Oh, it's right there.
You watermark
It says
Yeah,
it
got it
there.
right there.
If you could forward the electronic version, whether you did it in Word or,
I have this as a PDF. This version, and I'll need some help to get it into.
just go ahead and forward the PDF. Murray is an expert at
Oh, great. You
that
can
stuff.
switch
We
it
can
over.
copy and paste it onto a Word document.
Wonderful.
Okay, so,
I'm still learning Word.
so would I understand that this may be something that the board would review and have this on the agenda for the next meeting to
That would be
continue to
good.
discuss?
However long it takes to get this done, that's how long it takes, but I think it's worth doing because it's so much easier if we wanted to change something.
Okay,
We just say, well, we don't like, we need to change number 4. We don't have to hunt around in the narrative. The difference, big difference for me is this is a numbered list and not a narrative that you have to hunt through all the words to get something.
good deal. Okay, I'm
Okay,
open.
we'll work on that and now we can put it on the agenda for the next meeting
You got it.
to continue the discussion.
Okay.
And 8.4 is candidate nominations for District 3. And I think Chris has sent us the, and would you like to,
You want me to do
sure,
it? Okay. I'd like to make the motion to nominate the following 5 candidates to be considered for the District 3 Commissioner position. Angela Ewert, Martin Vanderpoth, Mike Diamante, Tammy Murphy, and Jim Mirabile,
Mirabile, I think.
Mirabile, okay. Per resolution 42.12.080, once the candidates are nominated, the court will execute a 15-day waiting period in the form of public notice to continue to accept further applications. After the 15-day notice has been executed, the Board of Commissioners will set a day and time for interviews and the selection of a candidate.
Second,
Okay.
any discussion?
So we're setting the clock, right? And
Yeah.
We will set the
Yeah.
clock after we
Pass this motion.
approve this motion.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
So we should, if you might, we should probably just emphasize that this is a waiting period for others to continue to apply
Right,
for the District 3 Commissioner position, right?
right, this
So-
is what we've had so far.
This is what we've had so far. This starts a 15-day clock. We will post it on our website at all our typical locations where we post our agendas in public, as well as the office, the kiosk, the post office in Coupeville and Green Bank. And then on the 14th, you guys can decide
What
Well-
we're going to do.
what you're gonna do as far as interviews
As
and,
far as the rest of the process.
Yep.
So can we just call a vote on this?
Sure.
Set these names, all in favor? Aye,
aye,
unanimous. Okay, I believe at the last meeting, we discussed that we would go a little more than the required 15 days and have the,
interview, or,
have the cutoff time for new people to volunteer, that terrible word. Slap yourself.
apply.
Apply
Yeah,
for the vacancy in District 3. As February 13th at 4:30 PM.
right, I remember that, yep,
And then on our next day, the 14th, will be our meeting. And we will decide at that point when we will have interviews and make the selection, because we have a lot of days after that until the 90 is over. We'll see if we get any more people. We'll see what happens to our candidate list.
right. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, we're getting
I'm
there.
very encouraged that we have so many people.
yeah.
We need one good one.
That's right, but it's always good to have people interested.
Yep,
Right.
yep.
Okay,
Okey dokey. Oh, we have another opportunity for public comment. And if anyone has something to say now, we're here to listen.
Martin, you good? Okay, anybody on Zoom would like to have public comment?
I do.
Loretta, on the, okay,
Oh, somebody said yes.
My name's Loretta Beeman and I'm a Coupeville resident and I own 2 businesses on the Coupeville Wharf. So I heard about the seismic stabilization and I was just curious if that is exterior walls only or interior and exterior.
Yeah, excellent question. Right now, Loretta, that was one of the first questions we asked the engineers. It's gonna be exterior. They're gonna do the seismic, they're gonna do the shear stabilization on the outside of the frame. So we are not anticipating any of the interior walls to be affected at this time, but please understand, we have not yet received, obviously, we haven't started with the designers and the engineers yet. But that was the initial conversation. We want to make sure that we can do this from the outside in.
Well, fabulous. That's good news.
Yeah, it is. I couldn't imagine going into your space or as well as Long's and trying to work on the inside of those walls.
It would be a little bit challenging, but
Be a little bit challenging, right?
okay,
Yeah.
fabulous. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Anybody else like to have public comment? Going once? Going twice? All right. Commissioner Burr, back to you.
Well, that looks like we're at number 10, which is adjourn this meeting.
At 2 p.m.
Right.